Welcome back. As we promised, we are going to tackle the Egyptian participation in the Non-Aligned Movement Summit, the edition number 19, which was held in Kampala in the Ugandan capital. As Egypt top diplomat, Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry attended the summit and delivered Egypt's speech on behalf of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. In fact, there are a lot of topics which were discussed, and there were a lot of messages delivered by Foreign Minister Shoukry, or by Egypt to be accurate, in front of the summit, on top of which is the call for the non-aligned movement to shoulder their responsibility in trying to stop the bloodshed in the Middle East, as the foreign minister said it that clear that no peace, no security is guaranteed except with an end to the Israeli aggression and the establishment of an independent Palestinian state with Al-Quds as its capital. To shed more light on the summit, we are very much delighted to have with us via phone Dr. Hassan Wageeh, Professor of Political Science and our political analyst. Thank you very much for being with us, sir, and a very good morning first.
Good morning to you.
Let's start immediately with the non-alignment movement before going into the details of the summit itself. For long ago, Egypt was a founder and was a pioneer to be included under this umbrella, the non-aligned movement. And since Nasser, they had their role and they had a historic role. Do you think that they can play the same role today with all the challenges and changes which are taking place not only regionally but internationally? Hello?
Oh, yes. When you are talking about the non-aligned movement, of course, we can remember the 5 initiatives by great leaders like Sukarno of Indonesia, Nehru of India, Nasser of Egypt, Tito of Yugoslavia, and Nkrumah of Ghana. That was called the 5 great leaders initiative to establish the non-aligned movement in the 50s. And their names, these are the names that are still having a good impact in Africa till today. Yes, the non-aligned movement was a reaction to the polarization and to the bipolar system. We had at that time Russia, the Soviet Union, by the way, the name was Soviet Union, and the United States of America. This bipolar system made the whole world get into a very acute polarization status.
Yeah.
So the non-aligned movement tried to say, no, we are not supposed to be in that polarization trap. We would like to have our own voice heard.
To support a side at the expense of the other side. What I am asking about, sir, these days, with the inability of the international community to press ahead with, or to have their pressure on Israel to stop their aggression, because there are 2 important things which took place yesterday. When it comes to the speech of Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry, he said it that clear. No peace is guaranteed except, in the Middle East I mean, except with an end to the Israeli aggression. And for his part, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that the denial of a Palestinian statehood is unacceptable. How do you see those 2 messages in specific at this time when we entered the 3rd month of the Israeli bombardment to Gaza?
Yes, the messages of Minister Sameh Shoukry was eloquently made, and these statements were really echoed fine and was well received by the members. You know, you have more than half of the population of the world attending. When you are talking about non-aligned movement, you are talking about 120 countries. So this big number, big representation. So when I just tried to listen to what was said, I felt like all the delegates were sympathizing with that. Why? Because actually, when you are talking about this movement, this is the right place to say such a statement like the statement made by Foreign Minister Sameh. Why? Because the movement itself is against inequality, against it calls for non-aggression, it calls for human rights, it calls for sovereignty, it calls for independence of people, it called for non-interference, it called in decolonization. It was established to be against imperialism. It is about resisting for supporting the resistance of each nation to gain its independence. So when you have these basic rocks on which the whole movement is built on, and you say what Foreign Minister Sameh said, I think that was the right place, the very right place to say such a statement.
Yeah. Sir, also, simply I can say that clear that the situation in Gaza overshadowed the summit. And a lot of discussions were made in this regard. I'm not going to count, but the UN Security Council, the ICJ in South Africa, the Mexican and Chile file in the ICC. Do you think that this summit is going to be added to the list I mentioned in just condemning, and nothing is going to be implemented on the ground, and nobody is going to have their pressure on Netanyahu to stop what he is doing?
Actually, what is happening in the world is unprecedented.
Yes.
And not to stop firing on the civilians is really a great atrocity. And I'm not saying that because I'm an Egyptian citizen and Arab citizen. Most of the fair-minded people, President Carter, who really initiated the whole peace process, and he was very keen to have holistic peace treaties, and he wrote a very nice book about apartheid and Palestine, and they said what's happening. He said that 2008, he said what's happening to the Palestinians is a crime and atrocity.
Yep.
So and again he reiterated the same points these days, and they said that there are misinformed politicians who really make it terrible for the whole world, not for our area only.
Yes.
Because this could be exploded to a wider conflict, and you cannot accept that people are being killed every day and nobody is saying something. This is unbelievably bad silence by the rulers of Western leaders who really went for a complicity with the Israelis or the Zionist dreams or whatever you call it. I mean, they are messing up for themselves and messing up for everyone. A fair-minded person, really, they lost the fair-minded people because they have to come to the table. They have to stop the war. They have to go for what we initiated a long time ago. We should stick to land for peace, not peace for peace, and fake normalization, while people are being killed by dozens every day. This could make the whole conflict go to a place that nobody wants it to go.
Sir, you know, whenever I'm honored to have you via phone, I intend, or I have in mind that I should ask you about the wording, because you are, of course, a professor of linguistics, and this is very important here when it comes to the rhetoric, to the discourse. When Benjamin Netanyahu said that he is against a viable Palestinian state, and when he said it that clear in front of the whole world, even against the will or against the wordings or against the terms used by the Americans themselves, whether it's Joe Biden or Antony Blinken. How do you see these words? I mean, as if it is a challenge to the whole world, using these clear words. No, there will not going to be a viable Palestinian state even in the post-war era. How do you see these words by Benjamin Netanyahu?
Yeah, by the way, يعني, we have been working with President Carter under the principle of peace for land. Netanyahu, from the very beginning of that process, he despite that he was not in full power, of course, but he has a voice to be said and to be heard. He said peace for peace. So he's against the idea of two states, despite the fact that the United States of America and the United Nations resolutions and the European Union and everybody in the world really supported the idea that to have stability and to have prosperity in the area, people and to have cooperation, people should have the rights. And the Palestinians should have the rights, and they should have their land. And all the resolutions are clear-cut, saying that we have to establish a Palestinian state. Tens of UN resolutions were established.
This is exactly what I'm talking about, sir, because the UN Chief, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, took these words of Netanyahu into account, and he said it that clear into his speech in front of the Non-Aligned Movement Summit in Kampala. He said that the right of the Palestinians to have their independent state should be recognized by all. These were his words. And he said that not to recognize this right is unacceptable by all means. And I think there's no clearer words than that, if you agree with me.
Yes, of course. And I agree with the General Secretary, who is courageous enough to say what he said. And I think that when the war erupted in the area, he mentioned this, yes, whoever has a right to defend himself or herself, as Netanyahu said, it is something. But 75 years of atrocities and brutal occupation should have an end.
Defending himself against women and children.
For that, by the way.
Okay, sir, let's move to Africa and to what's going on throughout Africa. Let's, for example, Sudan, Ethiopia, the Horn of Africa, Somalia. These were some of the issues also mentioned in the speech of Egypt delivered by Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry. Shoukry was clear also to renew the Egyptian stance toward Sudan and Somalia, for example. Sudan with forming the mechanism of the Sudanese crisis by its neighbors to help to end the crisis there, but unfortunately we expressed our sorrow for the continuation of violence there, and also he renewed the Egyptian stance with all kinds of support to Somalia to maintain its sovereignty over all its territories and to reject any external intervention into its internal affairs. How do you see those 2 points in specific?
Yes, Bandung was a very good occasion where the foreign minister, Sameh Shoukry, met many delegates, among them the delegates of the country you talked about, especially Somalia.
Yeah.
Yes, Egypt stands firm with the right of the Somali people to have real sovereignty on their land and to be against any aggression on their land. Because it is very important as a movement and as a role of Egypt to stand for the independence of people, for sovereignty of each state. So Egypt fully supported Somalia for that.
Sir, a very important activity on the sidelines of any summit like that is to have bilateral meetings with counterparts. And this exactly what was considered as the busy schedule of our top diplomat in those 2 days in Kampala. He met with his counterparts from Morocco, Djibouti, Bahrain, also Jai Kanchar of India, I mean, you name it, a number of meetings. Belarus, for example, but let's mention just 2 of them. With Djibouti, particularly to discuss the ongoing challenges in the Red Sea and to what extent it's that important to maintain security in this important navigation route for the best interest of all, of the whole world, to be accurate. How do you see this sidelines diplomacy of the foreign minister and their impacts and their importance, their significance, you name it?
Yes, of course, such diplomatic efforts are very needed, and it was very good to have this gathering to come to a common identification ground regarding keeping the naval path and the Red Sea and every place in the world safe for international commerce.
Yeah.
This is something that everybody, every fair-minded person would stand for. But again, let me say something as a free citizen in the Arab world here.
Yeah.
You know, when you are having the Houthis or the Yemenis, I'm, by the way, as a citizen, I'm against going for hitting any Arab country, by the way, as a feeling. But again, if they say we are helping out the Palestinians, and if they say we are trying to, we will stop these atrocities as long as the Israelis stop their atrocities in the Palestinian land. I think this is simple logic. Yeah, and you can say they are affiliated to Iran, not affiliated to Iran. This is another issue. But why don't you stop firing the Palestinian people and see whether they will abide or not? Even Hezbollah mentioned that if they stop the aggression against Palestinians, they will stop in Lebanon borders, the dispute that is taking place there. So I think it's a simple logic, by the way.
Yeah.
Stop that and look and see. But you are enlarging the firing and you are enlarging the war system in the area. Stop, first of all, and do it. Stop firing the Palestinian civilian people,
yeah.
And then see the reaction. If they stop, that was the reason. Nobody can accept silence like that and the killing of innocent people by dozens of people every day. And you know, I have seen on the television last night, there are more than 100 cities in Britain are demonstrating against that. In the United States, here and there. I think that the whole sole request by all fair-minded people, stop aggression on the Palestinians, stop killing the civilians in Palestine, and then everything would settle.
Stop the displacement of the Palestinians inside or outside their territories.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Let me finish this.
Yep.
Stop the aggression. Establish the Palestinian state and rights. The two things should go hand in hand, and then everything would be fine.
Everything will be fine for the whole world. And as also Antonio Guterres said it, and our political leadership said it more than once in different occasions, the ongoing brutal aggression of Israel in Gaza now, it's not only threatening Gaza, it's not only threatening people in Palestine, it's a threat to global peace and security. I don't know when they are going to learn the lesson.
It is against everyone in the world to have this destabilization taking place in this critical area of the world.
Yeah.
And by the way, it is not only Palestine. Netanyahu himself and the Israeli leaders mentioned that they wanted to make what they call it forced immigration for people. The Palestinian people already displaced several times inside Palestine. And they
Inside and
wanted
outside
to
their
go
territories,
and to make
unfortunately.
forced migration to Sinai. And this is the president and the Egyptian leadership and the Egyptian army will stand firm against that.
I do
No
trust
one
our
is
political
to get into
leadership and
Sinai,
our army,
and
our
Egypt's
armed
stance was
forces.
very clear.
Nothing is going to be implemented on the ground except with our will and our lands, our territories. It's a red line. Well, Professor Hassan Wageeh, our political analyst, professor of political science and professor of linguistics, thank you very much for your input, sir, and have a very good day. Right after the short break, we are going to return back with more, so stay tuned.